Hi everyone and welcome to Mr. Unknown Storyteller. If you are new here, hit subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon for more stories like that. We dive into darkest, chilling horror stories. Tonight's story is not just creepy. It is a kind of story that sticks in your head at 3 a.m. when your house is dead quiet. These are true Alaska Home Alone horror stories. And trust me, you might not sleep after this. So grab your blanket, turn off the lights, and let's get into it. Part 1. The Knocking in Fairbanks. Alaska hits different when you are alone. If you have never been there, imagine endless snow, pine trees that look like shadows, and nights that feel like they last forever. This happened to me 3 years ago in Fairbanks. Back then I was 22, broke, and house sitting for my uncle while he worked on the North Slope oil fields. His cabin sat 10 miles outside town. No neighbors, no streetlights, just forest and snow. The first night felt peaceful, almost too peaceful. I remember thinking, this is kind of nice. Just me, Netflix, and the sound of wind brushing against the walls. But around 11:47 p.m., something changed. I heard a knock at the front door. Not loud, not aggressive, just 3 slow taps. Tap, tap, tap. I froze on the couch. Nobody just shows up at a cabin 10 miles outside Fairbanks in the middle of winter. There was no car engine, no headlights through the window, nothing. I told myself it was probably ice cracking or wood shifting. Alaska cabins make weird noises all the time. I turned the TV volume up and tried to ignore it. Then it happened again. Tap, tap, tap. Same rhythm, same slow patience. My stomach dropped. I muted the TV and just listened. Silence filled the cabin. And then I heard footsteps on the porch. Crunching snow, slow, dragging, deliberate. That is when my brain stopped making excuses. Someone was out there. I grabbed my uncle's shotgun from behind the door. My hand shaking like crazy, I walked toward the window, but stayed low. I slowly lifted the curtain just a little. The porch light was on, and there was no one there. But the snow, the fresh untouched snow, had footprints. They led from the trees to the door, and then they stopped right in front of the door. No footprints leading away, just an empty porch, and tracks that ended like whoever made them vanish into thin air. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I stepped back from the window, trying to breathe. That's when I heard it, a whisper right outside the door. "Hey, it's me." My blood went ice cold. The voice sounded exactly like my cousin Jake. But Jake was in Anchorage, 360 miles away. I hadn't even told him I was house sitting. "Open up, bro. It's freezing," the voice said again. Same tone, same laugh at the end of the sentence. It was perfect, too perfect. I knew it wasn't him. There was no car, no headlights, no reason he would be there. I stayed silent, gripping the shotgun. Then the doorknob started turning. Slowly, gently, like someone testing if it was unlocked. Click, click, click. I felt like I was in some horror movie. Except this was real. "Why aren't you answering me?" the voice asked, but this time it sounded wrong. The pitch shifted slightly, like a recording glitching. "Let me in." I backed away into the hallway, my legs barely working. The whisper moved. It was no longer at the door. It was at the side window, then the back door, then right behind me in the hallway. "Let me in." I spun around, but there was nothing there. That's when the power went out. Total darkness swallowed the cabin. No one in the fridge, no heater, nothing, just silence. And then scratching, slow scratching against the front door, like long nails dragging across wood. I didn't move for what felt like hours. Eventually the scratching stopped. The power flickered back on around 2 a.m. I forced myself to look outside again. The footprints were gone. Completely gone. Like fresh snow had covered them. Except it hadn't snowed. I didn't sleep that night. And here's the part that still messes with my head. In the morning, I checked my phone. I had 3 missed calls from Jake, all at 11:46 p.m. When I called him back, he sounded freaked out. He said he had a dream that I was in danger. He said in the dream he was standing outside a cabin, knocking on the door, and I wouldn't let him in. Now this second story isn't mine. It's from a subscriber who emailed me last year. Her name was Melissa. She lived just outside Juneau, in a small house surrounded by forest and water. Her husband worked night shift at the harbor, which meant she was home alone most nights. One January evening, a heavy snowstorm rolled in, wind screaming, trees bending, visibility almost zero. Her husband called around 8 p.m. saying he might stay overnight at work because the roads were bad. Melissa locked all the doors and windows. She made some tea, turned on a movie, and tried to relax. Around 9:30 p.m., she heard a loud bang against the side of the house. She assumed it was a branch. Then came another bang, and another, like someone was slamming their body into the wall. She muted the TV and listened. The storm outside was intense, but the banging was rhythmic, intentional. She grabbed her phone and checked the security cameras. The front porch camera showed nothing but blowing snow, but the side camera caught something standing near the tree line. Tall, thin, almost blending with the storm. It wasn't moving, just standing there, watching the house. Melissa zoomed in. The figure's head tilted slightly, then it stepped forward. One step, then another. Its legs bent in a way that didn't look human. She whispered, "What the hell?" Suddenly, all the cameras went offline. Signal lost. Her phone buzzed immediately after. Unknown number. She declined the call. It rang again and again. On the 4th call, she answered, at first just static, then her own voice, crying, begging for help, saying, "It's inside the house." Melissa dropped the phone. She was alone. She hadn't made that call. Then she heard it, footsteps upstairs. Slow, heavy. She lived in a 1-story house. There was no upstairs. The footsteps moved across the ceiling, back and forth, like something pacing above her. She ran toward the front door, but it wouldn't open. Something was holding it shut from the outside. The handle wouldn't budge. The banging returned, this time on the roof. Boom, boom, boom. Snow fell from the ceiling vents, as if something massive was walking up there. Then silence, complete silence. Her phone buzzed again on the floor. A text message from her husband. "I'm outside." Opened the door. She felt her heart stop. She called him immediately. He answered from work, confused. He said he never texted her. At that exact moment, someone knocked on her front door. 3 slow taps. Tap, 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 and a voice said softly, "Melissa, I'm cold." It was her husband's voice, perfectly clear, perfectly calm, but he was 20 miles away. She backed into the kitchen. Grabbing a knife, the door handle began to turn, slowly, then violently, then it stopped. The storm outside suddenly died down, unnaturally fast. Everything went still. She peeked through the window. The yard was empty. No footprints in the snow. Nothing. The next morning, Police found deep indentations around her house, like something heavy had circled it all night, but no tracks leading in or out. Melissa moved out of Alaska 2 months later. She said whatever was out there wasn't human, and it knew how to sound exactly like the people you trust the most. Now here's the question that keeps me up at night. If these things can mimic voices, if they can appear outside your door, and if they only come when you are home alone, how do you know that the next knock you hear is really who you think it is? If you made it this far, drop a comment saying, "I'm not opening the door." And remember, sometimes in Alaska, the scariest thing isn't the cold. It's what's standing outside, waiting for you to let it in.